All right, guys, now it's time for fantasy talk. And I don't think there's really any standout running back wide receivers this past week. There's sure a couple of guys that I could maybe mention to go after in waivers if you're trying to stream some guys. But I'm just going to leave running backs and wide receivers out of it for this week. And we're just going to talk about quarterbacks, tight ends, and defenses and really focus on the streaming game. So my number one quarterback to stream this week is Kyle Allen. I know he had the one good week and then he's had two not so impressive fantasy weeks. But this week coming up, he's taking on the Buccaneers, who in their last three games have given up, most recently to Bridgewater, 314 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 pick. 2 weeks ago against Goff, 517 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 picks. And then 3 weeks ago, Danny Dimes puts up 336 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, and 2 rushing touchdowns. So the Bucs are just hemorrhaging points to the quarterback position right now. If Kyle Allen can put up anywhere near the kind of numbers that those guys have put up, which, you want to say maybe Jared Goff is an elite quarterback, although I wouldn't say that. Teddy Bridgewater, obviously not considered an elite quarterback. And Danny Dimes, Daniel Jones. Obviously, that was his first start in his NFL career, and he was able to put up 336, 2 touchdowns, and 2 rushing touchdowns, no picks. So the Buccaneers are hemorrhaging points right now to not the best quarterbacks, middling quarterbacks, and I think Kyle Allen is a middling quarterback, to be fair. I don't think he's a great quarterback, but I think against this horrendous Tampa Bay Buccaneers pass defense, I was saying earlier, Christian McCaffrey is going to have a harder day because this Bucs run defense is the best in the league, and I am guaranteeing you that the Bucs are going to dare Kyle Allen to beat him with their arms to win this game. They are going to do everything to stop McCaffrey, and they are going to do everything to leave their secondary as exposable as possible. I just think that Kyle Allen is a shoe-in to finish as a top 12 guy this week. I don't think his upside is top 5, but I think he's a shoe-in to be in the top 12. Now, the next quarterback I want to talk about is Kirk Cousins. There's not going to be a ton of weeks where Kirk is going to have real obvious playability in fantasy football, but last week was one, and this week is another. He's going up against Philadelphia, who has one of the most exposable, if not the most exposable secondary in the entire NFL, and they have such a strong front seven and a good offense in their own right that the Vikings are going to have to throw the ball in this one. Obviously, Thielen and Diggs are guys that can exploit a weak secondary, and the Eagles are going to put up points of their own, so the Vikings are going to need to score points, and if they want to win this game, they can't just play it safe the whole way through, and that front seven of the Eagles is going to slow down Dalvin Cook, like they slowed down Aaron Jones, Kerryon Johnson. Everybody thought Kerryon Johnson was not going to pan out as a running back this year because he had to play the Eagles and didn't look good. And we've seen since then, Kerryon's been a lot better. This Eagles front seven is very good against the run. So Kirk is going to have to throw the ball in this one. I think he's a very safe floor and a high ceiling. I'm only going to mention one tight end this week, and he's the guy who I would go after with my top waiver priority this week, without a doubt, and that's Gerald Everett. I think he really showed himself as the top receiving tight end on the team, and I really think the Rams need to do something to revamp their offense that hasn't been as dynamic this year as they have been in previous years. They haven't been, the Patriots exposed them in the Super Bowl last year, and they need to alter their approach if they want to be really successful this year. And I think Gerald Everett can be a guy that they can run the offense through. I'm not saying run the entire offense through, but feed him numerous targets a game like they did most recently, and he's proven to them that he's a guy you can rely on for trying to be tough and grind for those extra few yards. Every time he got the ball in his hands, he looked like a running back. He was just looking to make yards after contact, to get yards after the catch as soon as the ball hit him in the hands. He was fighting for every single foot that he could. I think that Everett might be able to work his way into being a consistent tight end option. And right now, there's maybe 8 guys total that you can actually rely on at the tight end position. So if we can find another guy that could be a reliable starter, then that's a guy that you really need to target, unless if you have one of those top 8 guys. So I think Gerald Everett is a must target this week. He's my top waiver wire target for the week. He could be a tight end that you can just stream, for a little while, or he could end up being an actual starter for you for the rest of the season. That kind of value means that he should definitely be your top waiver priority this week, unless, of course, if you have one of like the top 8 guys. Now, my top defensive streamer for this week is actually the Washington Redskins. I know you might be thinking, like, even against how bad the Dolphins are, you can't start the Redskins. You can start the Redskins against the Dolphins. The Dolphins are actually that bad. They've had 2 weeks to prepare to lose this game, and I think that they're going to do just that. And really, you might be thinking that this is a game that you just want to stay away from because both teams are just so terrible that you don't know who's going to out-terrible the other. I'm telling you, the Dolphins are going to out-terrible the Redskins easily in this one. In the Redskins' defense actually isn't that bad. Like, they're obviously not a great defense. They're probably still a bottom 10 defense, but they're towards the higher part of that bottom 10 defenses. And even last week, they sacked Brady 4 times and intercepted him once. If they can get 4 sacks and 1 pick against Tom Brady and the Patriots, imagine what they can do to the Dolphins. I think that they're a guaranteed top 12 play this week. And the nice thing about the Redskins is that they are guaranteed available on your waiver wire. Just because they played the Patriots last week, nobody has them on their team. Guaranteed top 12 fantasy finishing defense for this week that's guaranteed on your waiver wire. You got to go after the Redskins. And the other defense that I want to talk about is the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. They've looked really good, actually, over the last 2 weeks, especially since they've added Minkah Fitzpatrick to that team. They always had the pass rush, so they've always been good at getting after the quarterback and getting you sacks. But adding Minkah Fitzpatrick to the backside of that defense has really helped out the secondary. And, they already had good corners, but to have that really reliable safety play to pair with their good corners and the good pass rush, the Steelers' defense has been really quality over the last couple of weeks. They have multiple turnovers, at least 5 sacks in their last 2 games, and they're coming up against the Chargers this week, who were just horrible last week. I mean, it's not their fault. They are just decimated with injuries. That team is more injury prone than any team I've ever seen before. And the Broncos last week, who, have struggled defensively all season. I think that they're probably a middling defensive team, but they have struggled defensively all season. And they had a great showing against the Chargers last week. I just think the Steelers are definitely a much better defense than the Broncos. So if you thought the Broncos did well last week, which they did, I expect the Steelers are going to do even better next week.